Hola a todos, ¿cómo están? Hello everyone, how's everyone doing? Let me just change the view a little bit so I can see you guys. Hey, hello.
Hey,
Hello everyone, hello Vlad, and welcome to today's Midday meeting with the Maras. Today, essentially, it's going to be one session that we're going to take some time because we have been having a lot of questions you probably have seen, right? Hey Dave, good day. You probably have seen the hub that or next session, making Tantra great again, generated online. So one thing that I was surprised when I was start this is how many Buddhist people actually don't want to kind of listen to themselves when they say that the prayers. When we take or or vows, right? When we say we generate the intention to help all beings and all beings without exception, I have been surprised by how many people have been saying, well, yes, all beings, but all beings, but this person, right? Or this other person. So today we're going to do a session of a meditation called Tonglen, right? Because Tonglen is a meditation that comes a lot in the Buddhist, Tibetan Buddhist tradition, but it's applicable to all the Mahayana, by which you meditate on those people who trigger you. And this is key. We must include people that trigger us. Why is that? Because the first, like, if you have to pick one Buddhist virtue, it's not going to be compassion, it's not going to be love, I would say like the Buddhist virtue that trumps every other virtue is equanimity, upeksha, right? And actually, equanimity is the basis for love and compassion in Buddhism. The understanding that we, as sentient beings, suffer the same way that even the worst person suffered. And I usually pick Hitler for an example because, I mean, it's Hitler, it's like the worst person ever. Even he was trapped in samsara, even he was confused and suffered. He created a lot of terrible karma. He genocided people, he invaded, he killed millions. Nobody's arguing that this didn't happen. But what we're saying is that if you kind of leave somebody out of this, first of all, you're not beating equanimity. You do not have equanimity. You do not understand that they are kind of in the same situation that you. And the second thing that it's more insidious is that once you leave somebody out, soon everybody will start, to leave your field of vegeta because you say, "Hey, I'm going to save everyone. I'm going to work to help everyone, but that guy because that guy is terrible." And then at some point you're going to say, "Hey, but this other guy is also doing very bad things, so let's leave him out." And then it's like, "Hey, um, this group of guys, all of them are bad." And then suddenly you're at war with the world. And you know who was at war with the world? Hitler. By trying to avoid this kind of things, by trying to avoid this kind of overreaching bodhicitta, what's happening is you end up being just as the person you despise. His Holiness Dalai Lama always says, hate the act, but not the person doing the act. And I think it's very wise advice. So what we will do, if you're okay with it, we'll do a very quick meditation. It's not going to take more than half an hour, 40 minutes, but we'll do a meditation that's going to be as follows. First, we're going to take refuge and bodhicitta, right? Because this is a Buddhist practice, therefore, we must set refuge and bodhicitta for our intention. Then, after we have taken refuge and bodhicitta, we'll go on to the second part. And what is that part? We are going to pick a figure, and we're going to try to imagine that figure. And when I say imagine, it's imagine, right? I'm not saying you have to summon some particular. You just imagine it. You remember how they talk, remember how they dress, the physical aspect, right? And first, we're going to start by a person who you actually care very much. And you're going to imagine that they're sitting in front of you. And then you're going to imagine that they hurt. And everybody hurts in some way or another, right? Some more obviously, some less obviously. But it may be like, for example, it's your parents and you know that they had a very bad experience with your grandparents, for example. And that's a source of hurt. It may be someone who is actually in the hospital. It doesn't matter who, it must generate this kind of, I wish that person didn't suffer, right? If you don't have anyone but yourself, think of yourself. It's okay. It's okay. The main thing is the emotion. We feel this emotion. And we imagine that all the things that make that person suffer come out of them when they inhale. And we inhale, when they exhale, sorry. And we inhale it. And when it comes here, our own compassion transform this into very clean air, into space, into not suffering, into enjoyment. And we give it to the other person. And the other person inhales it and is relaxed. And we're going to go on. So this is the first part. So far, so good. Excellent. Please unmute yourself or write whatever in the chat, whatever is perfect for you. It's a very, very simple meditation, but any questions? More than welcome. So this is the first part, and this is the easy part because you pick someone you actually want to get better, right? Now we do the opposite thing. We pick someone who really despise, who we feel threatened by, who we feel that if they are in power, they're going to uh, they're going to make life difficult for us. And it doesn't matter who it is. People commented why Trump, Donald Trump, the former new president of the United States, I put there in an image like meditation, and it was like for me the best thing that can happen to the world is that Donald Trump meditates and becomes a Buddha, right? That's imagine someone with that kind of power with also that kind of compassion. But if Trump, it's okay for you, you put another person, like it could be like Kamala Harris, his opponent. It could be Elon Musk. It could be, I don't know, the prime minister of Italy, the president of Argentina, whoever you like, you put there. And you recall the emotion that you felt on trying to help the first person. And you do just the same. And of course, you're not going to get that emotion. You're going to get other emotions. If this is a person who's triggering you, you're going to get a little bit of fear, a little bit of anger, right? It is you relax. If it's too difficult, you let it go, you let them go, you bring back the first person. You do it a little bit more, and then dissolve and bring back the triggering person. Let's call it the love person and the trigger person. You bring back the trigger person and you remain there. And the idea is that you have to try to remain as open as possible with the trigger person as you are with the love person, right? It's difficult. I know. It's going to be difficult, and it's not something that one actually wants to do. But this is the greatest obstacle in my experience for aspiring bodhisattvas. Not doing what they want to do, but what needs to be done. Once your will becomes something that is unshakable, you will do what needs to be done for all the beings. But if you rely on what you want to do, you have to understand that desire is mercurial. Desire goes everywhere, every single day. Sometimes you won't want to meditate, sometimes you don't want to meditate. And yet we know that this is important, that we must overcome this. Because, for example, if we go to the gym to train, how many days you actually want to go to the gym versus how many days you go to the gym. If you only go to the gym the days you want to, I promise you, you're not going to have that much of a long-lasting effect. Whereas if take, you become disciplined and you go to the gym every single session and you do leg work and you do everything that you need to do, you're going to become a lot fitter than just rely on, oh, today I really don't feel like. By the same account, whenever we take refuge in a more, uh, let's say, extended way, we visualize our enemies, the people we feel were enemies, before us in the refuge. Because we want to make sure that we do the hard part first. We go to the gym every single day, so to speak. So, does that make sense? Is everyone clear in the instructions? Excellent. Then we'll do that and we'll dedicate the merit. It's very simple. So first, as always, we're going to sit in a position that supports us, that is comfortable. And just for a couple of seconds, we're going to try to focus our mind on the breath, just to make sure that we are in a good place, in balance, and feeling content. Now, we imagine the Buddha in front of us, or whichever object of refuge you want to use. And we say 3 times. I take refuge on the Buddha, take refuge on the Dharma, take refuge on the Sangha. I take refuge on the Buddha, I take refuge on the Dharma, I take refuge on the Sangha. Take refuge in the Buddha, take refuge in the Dharma, take refuge. And now we extend refuge by saying, to the merit of the perfections of giving and the others, I will quickly attain Buddhahood in order to liberate all beings without exception. So now, having set our intention and taken our refuge, we're going to proceed to the meditation. We start bringing to mind the loved person, the object of our love. We imagine that we're somewhere just with that person, sitting face to face. If we are sitting in a chair, they're sitting in a chair across us. If we're sitting on the floor, they're sitting on the floor across us. And we take a couple of seconds to visualize them, to imagine them completely. We see how they dress, we imagine and remember how they sound, their gestures, if they have a particular scent associated with them, the shape of their body and the shape of their face. So we take some seconds to bring them completely to mind. Having done this, we imagine their suffering. It may be something that we know makes them suffer, perhaps an illness or a secret death. It may be something that we imagine is the cause of suffering. It does not matter. The one thing that matters is how they suffer. And we imagine this suffering as black tar, almost like nicotine smoke near the lungs. And when they exhale, it comes out of them. This black smoke, black tar like substance. And because we love them, we inhale it. And it feels like very toxic cigarette smoke. It feels so channels, but when it gets to our chest, our love and compassion for them purifies this, and it goes back as clean, beautiful air. And they inhale, and you can see that they are a little bit more clean. And they exhale some more of the black tar. Again, we inhale and purify. And we keep doing this for a couple of minutes. Ex- Now we let this love object, the person we love, fade away. Almost like if they were a rainbow fading into the sky. We do start to visualize the person that we designated as the trigger object. We see them seated just where the love object was. We visualize how they dress, imagine how they sound, things that they say, the attitudes that they have, the gestures. And now we also imagine that they are suffering. We see the dark tar near their heart, and we visualize how it comes out, and we inhale it. We also feel it going down, and when it reaches our chest, in order to not become intoxicated by it, we focus on generating the same kind of love and compassion that we have for the love object. And if we can, we give that other person the relief with the clear breathing that we send them. If it becomes too difficult, we would swap in the love object for a bit. So we do this now for a couple of minutes. Remember, if the trigger person is too much, let it go for a second. We go back to the person we love. We keep purifying the person we love. We feel love in our love and compassion in our chest. And we use this space for letting them go and bring in the trigger person again. Anger, fear, fears in our mind. That's okay. You don't have to do anything about those. Let them be. Remember that we don't have to let what we feel stand in the way of doing what we must do as poisoners. If it becomes too much, you can again dissolve the trigger person and let the love person arise again. Do a little bit of practice with them and go back to the trigger person. The focus is to feel the love and compassion within yourselves. In order to relax and exhale, remember to focus on the space that the person gains in their head. Now, to finish, we let that person, person who triggers us appears here between us and the Buddhas. And we imagine that the Buddha, whichever Buddha you want to imagine, sends light and wisdom. And that light and wisdom is mirror from the person that triggers us. And when we touch light and wisdom, we also become enlightened. And with this, both the Buddhas and the beings that trigger us fade into the sky like the rainbow. And to finish this practice, we dedicate the merit by paraphrasing the great Shantideva and saying that my all beings have the capacity to learn from their enemies, and that my all beings, without exception, reach enlightenment through our effort, that we may become food for those who are hungry, water for those who are thirsty, a shield for those who need to be defended, and leather sandals for those whose feet are hurting. Sarva Mangalam. And with this, the meditation is complete. How was it, everyone? Was it good? Was it bad? Hey, Chris! Excellent, Gerardo. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you. I'm glad that this was good for you guys. It's thank you, Raul. This is great. So let me ask, do you guys, first of all, do you have any questions about this? If not, I would say, oh yes, Amanda, it is challenging. It's supposed to be challenging. And Shantideva in his Bodhicaryavatara calls these the only secrets of the Buddha. He says that the great secret of the Buddhas of the past and of the future is that they are able to see no difference between even their worst enemy. If you like, this is going to be sound a little bit like a book, right? Because this is a book that I translated. It was actually my first translation from Sanskrit was the Bodhicaryavatara. But forget about that and go get anyone else translation of Bodhicaryavatara. So I'm not in the process there because it's a great book. And if you read it and you try to put it, it's a very clearly a manual, right? It's a manual of how to be a bodhisattva by the Arya Shantideva, wonderful author. And it's very challenging. Yes, of course. Bodhicaryavatara. Here it is, Bodhicaryavatara by Shantideva. And sometimes it is written as the guide to the bodhisattva's life, a guide for bodhisattva, a manual for bodhisattvas. It essentially means being an avatar of enlightenment. When I translate it as the spirit of awakening, right? Spirit of awakening, because it's not just uh, something mental, it's a drive that you have to have. Jacob was saying there is some bit of internal conflict, but thinking of action of Buddha was said that helping you to do correctly. Exactly. And the conflict is good. The conflict is good. This should be something that is, if you engage in it, like Amanda was saying, should be something challenging. Don't take my word for it. Go read the Bodhikaravatara, or for example, the other texts that deal with this, right? Other texts that deal a lot with bodhicitta, like the Tantra Shastra, and all the other manuals from the Mayamaka and Yogacara schools, and you will find that even though most people in the West, because they want always the latest thing, right? The biggest thing. Say, no, no, Tantra is the most challenging thing. Believe me, it's not. In a practical way, in a practical way, these kind of practices are more challenging to be a good bodhisattva that magical practices. Because magical practices, it's just most of them, if you can visualize, if you can memorize things, it's going to be good. It's just going to need application, right? It's just going to need to be sitting every single day and read books and listen to your guru and applying things. You're going to get there eventually. It's just a matter of applying yourself. This, however, it's more involved than that. Now we're coming to a time in the year that's the time of Christmas in most West countries. And at least in my country, this is a time where the family comes together. I always found that large family gatherings are a better way to practice this kind of thing and more challenging than going to a monlam, going to a retreat. Because you're going to a retreat, you're going to see a couple of people for a couple of days or even months, right? I don't really use that word months, but it's not going to be your whole life. And everyone's like trying to be the best Buddhist version of themselves. It's not going to be as challenging. To find people like here in Argentina, the racist angle is, I guess, everywhere, right? But here in Argentina, it's kind of a cliche, but there's always one. Uh, it's it's difficult. It's difficult to be able to understand that still, even if they do things that trigger you, they serve love and compassion and emptiness, and they have the same nature as the Buddhas. David asks, would there be any benefit generating as the Jidam before this practice? I would say no, right? Because Jidam generation, it's something that one does to generate in a tantric setting, right? And it deals with transforming these things into pure perception. Here we're more of a sotric setting level because this is open, right? And also I think that this is of course not in the books, this is just my own opinion. But if everything, unless you have the tantric practice pat down in the moment which you understand that you're not different than the yin, there can be a slight obstacle there that arises in which you believe are the yin, but the rest of the things that appear not. And remember that if we're talking about tantric practice, everything that has to appear in the mandala of the yin. So if you do this as the yin, whatever appear shouldn't be a problem. There shouldn't be any triggers, which is something that the other day I was trying to put in writing, that if you are a tantric practitioner, I mean like a true tantra, there shouldn't be any triggering things. Even the worst person in the world. I mean, it doesn't matter who do you think it is. Right now, if you think like that is Donald Trump, that's Donald Trump. If you think that's Javier Milei, that's Javier Milei. If you think that it's the opposite, it's like Xi Jinping, whoever do you feel is the worst person. If you are a two tantrika, this could be good. Because if they are rising in your mandala, you are the deity, then you can interact with them as deity. Zero triggers. If you are being triggered, if you are feeling like, no, this is not good, this is bad, this is wrong, then you're not at the level of tantra. So if you're at that level, Dave, you really don't need to do this. But because most people are not at that level, exist these techniques to get them to that level. Does that make sense, Dave? Excellent. Excellent. It is important. One thing I would say, I would probably explain it just in 15 minutes that we have the big Making Tantra Great Again session. But I would say that it's very important to practice when at the level that one is at. right? And in this, we are a little bit hampered because most of the things happen are internal and mental, and that's what we need a guru, right? But if you were to go to the gym, right? Let's say that you're going to the gym for the first time ever, and you see the bench press machine, right? Like when you just lift weight at the chest level, and you go and you say, okay, I never practice, but surely I can lift 400 pounds. You're going to get, you're not going to be able to. You're going to like do like this. In the best case, you're not going to be able to. In the bad case, you just might hurt yourself, right? Really bad. One has to practice at the level one is. The first time one goes to the gym, perhaps it's just you use the bar without no weights, and then you progress. This is the same. And it's not judgment. Just as there's no moral judgment if you go for the first time to a gym and have to start on very light weights, nobody's going to say, oh, this is your first time. It's wrong. You have to do like the biggest dumbbell that you can find. It's not going to happen because everyone knows that you have to progress. In Buddhism, in life, it's the same. If you are being triggered, that's perfectly all right. That's perfectly all right. It's not something good, it's the moment that you are. But if that's the case, you shouldn't be practicing Tantra. You should be practicing this. And on the basis of this, when you practice Tantra, it's going to be a lot easier. But if you start by practicing Tantra and then you get triggered, it's not going to work. And this is going to seek into the next next talk in 10 minutes, 30 minutes time. Excellent. I think that's yes, Jacob. This is the way of the Bodhisattva. This is the way of the Bodhisattva. That's the title in some translations. Excellent. So, any other question? Any other comment? Well, if not, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this space with me. Practice this. Practice this. And especially in social media. Especially in social media, uh, be mindful of where you are. If you find yourself triggered all the time, it's okay. You just need to practice this. This is the pace. If you go to a point where everything you see arises in the same way, you have created equanimity. This this means that you're ready to go to the next step. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in 10 minutes. Bye bye.